can ask around now, say the same thing. They chasing the fame, they all want the name, but they ain't got what's running through these veins. Make way for the king.
What's up, guys? Back here with you. Man, it's great to be back. Season 2 underway of the Prowled Panthers podcast here, and it's been some time. Been nice to have a break, I will say. I don't have that summer glow, though, that if you're able to make it out to some of the practices right now during the summer time frame, you'll see these guys, some of the players, they're getting some opportunities to get outside a little bit. But it's great to be back with you. Last year, season 1, we kind of got things kicked off. If you're new to the program here, welcome in. Thanks for hanging out with us. You found the home for all things High Point University basketball. Exclusive coverage there in a lot of ways. Great partners at High Point University. It's a place that, man, it means a lot to me. I was once a student there, once worked with the basketball program there, once thought I wanted to be a college basketball coach. Didn't fare out that way for a lot of different reasons, but I still enjoy what I do now, which my day job actually, it diverts my attention off in a lot of different directions. One of those aspects is this, working behind a mic, being a talking head, if you want to call me that. There's a couple of different radio programs I'm a part of. I'm sure we'll share more about that down the road. But then I also am an entrepreneur in a way. So I own some different businesses, and I've worked in and around them, and I have my hands in a lot of different things, honestly. But I'm happy that one of them is following along with my beloved alma mater, their basketball program, and supporting in a lot of ways. Again, if you haven't been with us before, I'll just say I'm a fan just like you possibly. I go to the games, try to support as much as I possibly can, avid about talking about them. Love being connected in any ways that we can. Got a lot of exciting things coming up here for season 2. There's going to be get-togethers, if you will, maybe even that are associated with this podcast now. What I mean by that is like some coaches shows, some things that fans can come out to, get involved with, maybe meet and greet with some players and do some different stuff that way. So stay all plugged in as much as you can. You can download the podcast on any major podcast catcher. It's out on social media. You can follow me personally at Stephen Beck TO, at Prowled Panthers on X. Both great ways to follow along there. And I'll say we're going to have Coach Clayman coming up here this episode shortly. We'll also, in the next couple weeks, start hearing from a lot of the players. So one of the things I did a year ago that I really want to keep and continue this season is plugging into these players early. I realize this day and age of college basketball, way different than I was hanging around the program. And when I thought I wanted to be that coach, it's like 90% of your roster evolves each and every year. Now, our team here at High Point, fortunate enough that the first guys we're going to hear from, I plan to be returners. We do have 5 scholarship guys back on the roster again this year. And in fact, you'll hear Coach Clayman talk a little bit about that here in the next few minutes, because it's not that way everywhere. High Point, we have LSU on our schedule coming up, and right now, Will Wade's team, I couldn't tell you what that thing looks like. Good luck if you can. He doesn't even know right now. It's going to depend on some court filings and whatever else the NCAA can figure out here in the next couple weeks, and I'm sure will evolve and change again. So it'll be fun to catch up with the players. Always enjoy hearing their story. Definitely hear what they've been up to. Connect with the new guys that are coming into this roster. And man, I've been out to a few of the practices throughout this summer and continue to stay plugged in there, and we'll continue to do that. Where I thought before we heard from Coach Clayman here this first episode, just to kind of get the ball rolling again before we get back with the players, I'd give you just some early, probably way too early observations, to be honest with you. it's easy as fans when we get in these circles, we start having conversations. We want to know a lot of times with these new guys, like, what do they look like? How are they? What do you expect? What do you think on them? I find myself trying to be as patient as possible. And the reason why I'm probably able to do that in ways is because that team last year that made the NCAA tournament run, that became your Sweet 16, almost their darling of the tournament. We could just knock down a few more baskets against Arkansas. That same team, early on in the summer, when I was going to these same kind of practices and workouts and being around them, there was a lot of growth that had to happen. I think if you're a big High Point fan, and one of the guys that I'd love to hear from earliest, you could see growth mid-season at a camp. So it's hard, right now, we're talking about mid-July, to give a grandiose synopsis of these guys that won't fluctuate, won't change, and is exactly what you're going to see game exhibition 1 even. Got a couple of cool exhibitions, I'll just say, coming up. And we'll probably even, that was something we did last year, got together with a couple of fans and picked some of the games. We'll do that as the season gets closer as well. But UNC Wilmington's back on our exhibition schedule again this year. Nice that they're going to be coming to the Cobain Center. Very, very difficult exhibition game that went to double overtime a year ago. And also, we've got ETSU. Might as well go to our home away from home, Freedom Hall, and enjoy getting comfortable with that scene again, because that's where the Big South tournament's going to be. So, I just don't want to get too far out in front of ourselves, out, on our skis a little too far here with some of the observations, but I've got some. I'm not going to give you like a starting lineup today. I know, again, that's one of those things where it'd be easy to say like, oh, who do you think's, who's going to be the starters? Even if I gave you my starting lineup right now, what I've found and learned in a good working relationship with Flynn, and he is an awesome dude, great coach. I trust in a lot of ways his style of management of the roster, how he puts together the team, and then how he gets the best out of all these guys. What I do know about him is you can play your way onto a roster when you don't, normally expect somebody to be able to do that. I think, again, we'll hear from him today how Braden Hassan did that a year ago, earned playing time. So even if I gave a starter, lineup right now, I don't think it would be helpful at the moment. But some just early observations here. I'm just going to run through some. The first that I've noticed is that we've gone out and actually expanded our staff, our support staff, in a really unique way. Wouldn't be something that a lot of people would recognize. My ties to working with the program before, I see all this kind of stuff. I'll give an example. It's like a year ago, I remember some of these earlier workouts. I can't remember if it was actually in the fall semester or not at the time, but I just remember there not being enough managers around. I think during one of the practices, coaches are looking around for some mop guys, for some dudes to run out and, use the towel to get up a wet spot, guys that are in position with additional basketballs and drills. And there was a time where at least one practice I was at where it's like, where did everybody go? I mean, where are these guys at? Well, one of the things I've noticed, and it speaks in large part, I think, to athletic director Dan Hauser, to university president Nito Cobain, to just the support, the backing that High Point University provides. What they've done is they've gone out now and seemingly have gotten more GA style staff that are actually ready, physically to get out there and get in the flow of a practice. why I mention that very much is because that's going to be one of those little unique outliers in college basketball as we get really further deeper away from the time that we're sitting right now, where you've got grandfathered roster players in there. And what I mean by that is like walk-on guys. If you've already had them on the roster, you're not exactly limited to that 15 that eventually, once those grandfathered players get erased from your program, well, you're locked down. You only have 15 guys that you are able to practice with. So I found it interesting that Flynn, being savvy again, his staff, his coaching staff here being forward thinking, they went out, they grabbed some of these guys that are able to hop into a drill. I can tell you one of them, he just was playing professional basketball in Europe a year ago. You're not going to tell me that guy helps get the players ready? I heard a story just real quick about South Carolina's women's basketball program. They were some of the first that brought in dudes to practice against their female players. I don't know if that's still able to be done now or not. Pretty smart then. And I would say that is kind of what we've got with these guys added to the staff this year. One of the first guys I'm going to talk about is a returner. And he's somebody that I think back half of last year's season could easily get forgotten a little bit. I don't mean it to be that way. I just think the realities that Rob Martin went out and performed with some of the best guard combos between Wisconsin and Arkansas in the brightest of spotlights. Then if you want to add in there Chase Johnston, what he was able to do on that big stage. Cam, we already mentioned him, what he was able to do starting with the Big South tournament all the way through. I think this guy, you could say, man, he kind of just dropped off. And that's Conrad. Conrad back this year. And you'll hear me say this about Cam too, Braden as well. All of these guys, all scholarship guys, sometimes the best gets in the portal. I mean, this is like a used slogan, but it's so true. The best portal additions sometimes are the ones that you get back. And I really feel that way about Conrad, about Cam, about Braden, about Caden. I know Case and Kruger is going to outwork tons of guys getting our starters ready, if you will. And Conrad coming back this year, what I wanted to disarm people with this early is that he just looks so refreshed. Yeah, he just looks so locked in, very comfortable. I'm not sharing, I don't think, anything that Flynn hasn't shared himself. And I think he did it on this podcast. So that's why I'm going to say it now. But he told me that the second half of the year, Conrad had just a lot of stuff going on. And it sidetracked, it kind of derailed the early contributions that he had made on last year's team, where it's like, we've got a lethal duo, guard combo here between he and Rob. I think you'll get a lot of that again this year. You could add CJ Brown into the mix with Conrad. You could add Trey Pearson into the mix with Conrad. I mean, those are the main on ball handler guys, but then, I mean, the whole slew of, other 2-3, universal guards that we could throw out there at any given time. I mean, it's again, I joke, I think I can't remember who it was, if it was Louisville. I want to say it was Louisville who tried to self-proclaim themselves as guard U. I feel like ever since Flynn has been a part of High Point University basketball, even in, previous days to him being the head coach, our guard combos, pretty legit. So Conrad back refreshed. I think the first half Conrad that a lot of people grew familiar with, I think he's back. I really do. We mentioned Trey Pearson. He is, I guess they're still called a true freshman player joining the team this year. I think the best, I want to say this pretty comfortably, but the highest rated incoming freshman that High Point basketball's ever gotten. The observation I would say about Trey is the moment's not too bright for him, and I can already tell that. It's not easy. I mean, it's easy again to feel like these guys walking on a college campus the first day should be able to just jump right out there, play with the best of them, have zero discomforts about showing up at a college campus, being away from mom and dad. Who knows, you got to move across country in a lot of cases. There's just a lot of stuff that could go on, up here in the brain. And Trey just seems like ho hum. Everything's hunky dory. From just a look at him, he does also present taller. I don't know what that'll end up providing us necessarily. It's just an aside that I thought I would throw in there. He just seems like a little bit taller, more built than I had originally expected. Braden, Caden, those guys returning are examples, though, of what I hope at High Point we're able to sustain. And talking with Flynn, he has shared many times, like, we were able to get back the guys that we wanted to get back that weren't out of eligibility, that didn't graduate. And if you just follow Braden's career path at High Point, it's a complete anomaly. You just don't get that. I know the days of Kalkbrenner at Creighton is that has a tie in some strange ways to this conversation here with Braden. But you just think about a guy like that. Showed up at Creighton, fresh-faced freshman, developed, got bigger, got stronger. Now he's in the NBA, plays for the Charlotte Hornets. I don't know, Braden could get to the NBA. What I have noticed about a guy like Braden, and what I have noticed again about Caden just in year 2 for him, is that the longer that they hang around, they really do have an advantage when it comes to operating in a system that has been implemented early for both of them. Braden's development cannot go unnoticed. I'll continue with the receipts on this. You could go back, you could find them yourself in those archives of this podcast. But I said, and I'll still hold on to this, I feel as if Braden is a all Big South quality player. I think he could easily end up being Big South Player of the Year caliber. That's by his transformation that he's done, and it continues again this summer. Last year, he played his way into a starting spot. This year, he's still hanging, right there with all the guys I've watched in these couple of practices. Caden, he didn't get as early of a jump, and some of my initial concerns with that was, there's no other evidence to say this, but I feared a Josh scenario, a JI, where he didn't get much time in the summer last year, and he just was never able to catch up going into the actual basketball season. Well, Caden's back. He's out practicing. Yeah, he's in the flow of it now. And best I can tell, that little bit of time that may have been missed some, it has not stopped him at all. The one other guy, really, though, that I haven't had a chance in terms of returners to talk about is Cam. And Cam is Cam, man. I mean, that you are not going to get a better player in the Big South this year. If you get a better player in the Big South this year, they're going to be on High Point's roster. Let me just put it that way. Cam is dominant. Cam is in a good space. Cam and the relationship developed from Flynn with Flynn a year ago, that speaks volumes. What he was able to do starting in the Big South championship game, taking it right on into the NCAA tournament, he proved that he's got all the talent to compete on any level of basketball that we're going to see. And I have noticed that he's plugged in. I've noticed during these summer workouts, he's very much carrying himself the way that you would want one of your best players to perform and carry themselves. And that is a good thing to see. Some of these other just quick notices of other things, and I'm not going to get to everybody. I mean, we're already 20 minutes in, and it'd be easy for me to sit here and just diagnose things. If you do have questions and you're ever just, hanging out, chewing on this podcast, shoot them to me. I'll be happy to try to answer them as best I can at Stephen Beck TO, at Prowled Panthers on X. One of the things that you will also see is the opposite to it, and I don't mean it in a bad way, but you got a couple of veteran guys like Franquan Sherman, Isaac Garrett, who are very experienced players, vets, if you will, in the league. There's things as you watch them that you realize, ooh, yeah, that's the only reason that happened is because they've been in another system. They're indoctrinated with certain thoughts and ways to go about things. And now moving to a different system, it's like breaking an old habit. You got to get away from kind of what you're accustomed and used to doing. Nothing bad, nothing alarming there. Again, that's what college basketball is about this day and age. It's going to be everywhere, cross country. The more likely scenario on rosters right now is you just see 5-and-5 debates bantered about in court rulings is that you might have, you could have new players on a roster in late October, right before the season tips coming up. And with that, you're going to have the same thing that I'm talking about with these guys is, there's just natural gifted talent that comes with these players. But as you try to work them in and integrate them to a roster that's been working together for a period of time, that's set up to do, certain things with certain mentalities on both the offensive and defensive ends, there's going to be learning curves. There's going to be growing pains. And that's something I've noticed. You could make a blanket statement for all the new guys that have been playing elsewhere before they came to High Point. Like Alex and Trey, guys like that are just like new, fresh face, incoming freshmen. Not as much, of that because they just had their high school stuff to go off of. These other guys that have been playing basketball year after year after year, and they've had coaches teach them how to attack certain offensive looks, and they've had coaches tell them how exactly they want them to play certain defense. It doesn't always align with what we've got going on at High Point. And so now that's what I've noticed with like a guy like Frank, like a guy like Isaac. Now, other guys in some ways, they just seem to kind of pick it up and flow with it faster. It's very, very elementary, honestly. My wife's an elementary school teacher. I know when I was coming up through school, people would always make conversations about, well, like everybody learns a little different. So me, this bonehead right here, it didn't learn that easy. It didn't learn that fast. Other concepts for some kids that they would pick up in like 2 seconds, let's say long division. For me, it's like, that's a chore. Well, that's kind of what I noticed. And some of the guys like CJ, like Curtis Washington, who was picked up late, they just flow in there. Now, I mentioned Curtis there for a second, and I'm going to probably leave the different observations with this, get to Flynn Clayman here in just a second. Somebody y'all would probably rather hear more from than myself anyways. But Curtis joining when he already has, which is, again, a little delayed because we picked him up as a late addition to the roster. It, again, cannot go without being mentioned here how impressed I am with the staff. I know sometimes it feels like it's all roses and compliments here. But when you've been around other coaching staffs and very close in the past, then you notice certain things a lot more. And for myself, what I would say is actually I'll get to reunite with a coach that I was around. At the time, he was just an assistant coach. At the time, I was just a measly little support staff person on a team. But Josh Schertz, we get to see St. Louis in a home and home actually next couple of seasons. Great A-10 matchup that we've got already set up. So Josh Schertz, before he became big bad, household name across college basketball with Indiana State and now at St. Louis, there was a day and age where he was at High Point. But just to say that all these staffs would have exactly what's in place now at High Point, and things are a lot easier now than they were then, but I still have to credit Coach Clayman, his assistant coaches. Hope to hear from many of them. Jorge Ruiz is a new guy on the staff. Anderson Clark back. Ben Fletcher back. Antoine Young back. Rube's back. Chop's back. I'm sure I'm forgetting people there. But, we'll try to hear from some of those guys. But they deserve a tip of the cap, because when crunch times have happened and we need to be prepared, we need to have a chess move made, they've been able to make it, and Curtis is one of those moves. We've already had some things that just have fluctuated the roster a little bit, and for them to be able to go out, find a guy that late, plug and play him, and him arguably be on that Cam talent level of best player on this roster from what I've seen just throughout the early practices, very, very, very impressive. Now, I will say one last thing you'll catch me throughout Prowled Panthers podcasts and I kind of gave this blanket disclaimer early in season 1. I'll do it again here early in season 2. Few things that you're not going to catch me doing here on the podcast. Number one is I'm big about competitive advantages and relationships that are earned and garnered throughout working with the team, working with the program. There's things at times where I just choose not to talk fully about it, because at this point in the game, other teams picking up on stuff, other programs picking up on stuff, agents, this and other people just out there in the verse, Twitterverse, YouTubeverse getting involved. I mean, it's not always best. And so, like I said at the get-go, I'm a fan. I'm a High Point supporter. So the last thing I want to do is get out here, do anything that's going to, be against that success that we potentially could have. So that's a big one. The other one is definitely try to be as fair as I possibly can be. Criticism happens in sports. I think it's a necessary thing. It happens also in business at my entrepreneur outlets that I have. But you also have to balance that, I think. And reality is that the coaches, the players, all the stuff with basketball, with college basketball, we're still humans. There's life that exists. And I think it's, again, just something that I, hold for my own principles to try to treat that all these different angles and different observations and all this kind of stuff as fair as I possibly can. So those are just a couple of disclaimers. Do with that what you will. If you're really upset at it, fire it my way again. Like I said, I'm happy to stomach it at Stephen Beck TO, at Prowled Panthers on X. We're going to take a break. Coming up, though, we're going to hear from head coach of the High Point University Panthers, Flynn Clayman.
High Point University, the premier life skills university. Employers value HPU's real-world preparation, and parents appreciate High Point University's God, family, and country values. Choose to be extraordinary.
Coach Clayman joining us here on the Prowled Panthers podcast. Coach, how's it going?
Going great. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. No, thanks for taking time here. We're back again for our second Prowled Panthers season. Your second official season as head coach, but a whole new crop. I mean, this is college basketball now, where having returners, having continuity, it's less it's less familiar for coaches and for players than the opposite. But now the guys are on campus here, some going through some summer workouts and summer practices with limited time. They'll get a break, and then, of course, everybody will get back here on campus. But so far, now with both returners and some of the new guys, how are things feeling?
Feel great. Got a great group, really good guys. Love how our feel is of our locker room and our attitude and everything like that. There's great energy. They're, great IQ on the court. They're picking up a lot of concepts really quickly. A lot of unselfish play, playing together, a lot of learning. So, really the only problems we have is when they're overthinking a little bit, but just a really good group of guys that I'm excited about.
With the, continuity being the main factor here with some of these new guys coming in, you see somebody like an Isaac Garrett or a Frank, and they've been in a system elsewhere, and there's kind of like old habits, if you will, that you have to break down. Is that just normal now for you in the systems that you bring these guys in? You just go ahead and plan like, hey, we've got a plan for these guys. We see that plan, but we kind of got to break some of these old habits to get them where we want them to be.
Yeah, that's definitely one of the advantages to continuity is guys already gone through that process and you can kind of skip that and move on. And then there's always just little things you want to do different with guys, depending on what system they came from. In our case, a lot of times it's just a little bit of a slower offensive system that guys are coming from, generally speaking, because we're one of the faster teams, highest scoring teams. If we had a transfer from, say, like a Alabama or something like that, like it would probably be less transition, in terms of what we're trying to do. But that's one of the big things we usually feel is guys, who haven't played quite as fast or as free, because we don't call a ton of sets. So just learning how to play out of concepts and space and all that is usually one of the biggest factors with the new guys.
Yeah, I take that in as I'm watching these practices, but then I'll also equally look across and see, a Conrad and a Cam and a Braden and a Caden, these guys that in different levels a year ago had different roles that they played in your system. And all of them, it's a bit of a breath of fresh air for me because I feel a sense that they all are growing, continuing to get more comfort in different ways. So we'll just say, like in Conrad's case, I know his first half of last season versus his second half of last season was a bit different, but now it's almost like he's taken both of those things and he's even elevated that a step. Is that kind of how you feel about all these guys?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we got 5 scholarship guys back with Conrad, Cam, Braden, Caden, and Kaysen. And, those were guys we really wanted back. And they weren't guys that didn't have options to do other things. So we were really excited to have that kind of continuity back. And pretty much everyone else who wasn't here, graduated for the most part that we wanted back. So I'm seeing a ton of growth from them. I mean, they're able to kind of skip a lot of steps like we talked about. I'm talking about some details with the new guys that they're past, and I can move on to other things. And I'm really excited with the growth I've seen early from Conrad. He's shooting the ball tremendously well. He's just got a total, second nature feel now for what we're trying to do. Cam really, he finished those 3 games as one of the best players in the country when you're talking about the conference tournament championship and those 2 NCAA tournament games. And he was highly sought after from top of the line, top blue blood situations. So for him to come back was amazing. Obviously, Braden is a guy who's just a prototypical type guy that anyone could plug into their system with the size and the IQ and the shooting. And he's just become even better this year with his ball handling and continuing to work on his body and his quickness and everything. Caden is looking fantastic. He was in a he was a true freshman last year, but he still had some good moments for us. And then he was behind 2 older guys, and he made his case to play more even last year. It's just hard to play 3 big guys like that. But he's looking really good early here as well. And then Kaysen's continued to get better as well. Great program guy. So we're really excited about all them back.
I didn't mention Kaysen there. One thing I know about Kaysen, though, is that he is a workhorse when it comes to shots that he puts out. Is he still on pace of being up the upper end of those stats?
Yeah, he is. I mean, he's going to be the hardest working guy in the room everywhere he is. So he's just got a really bright future.
Where we touched on both guys that we had coming into the system from other programs, and then we've also got the returners. I did want to throw in a whole different player addition, though, where it was kind of after we already got here and got some things rolling. You were able to pick up Curtis. You talk about how someone like that, who not only is he not a returner, but then, it wasn't like he was already set and established to be here. He's come in, and it seems like he fits in right away.
Yeah, Curtis got here a couple weeks late, just with some spots we were trying to fill, which is pretty normal. I mean, a lot of rosters aren't set anymore. It's just a new era we're in. You'll have schools that will be adding players after the fall school year starts. I mean, that's just the reality. Some schools added players in October, some added them in the middle of the season. It just kind of depends how, if you have a spot open and if your school will work with you on that stuff. But Curtis got here plenty of time to learn everything we're trying to do, Curtis Williams, and he's just a fantastic scorer, shooter, talent, a real talent, and just a great kid too. He brings a great vibe, great energy. Love his swagger, his confidence. He's fit in perfect to our system. He's going to score a ton of points, make a bunch of threes.
The one last place, I know we'll probably try to get with you again as we get into actually the fall school year time. But just at this point, as you look ahead to what you've pieced together on your schedule, not necessarily have to mention direct games or whatever it is, but how do you feel that part of the planning is coming together?
Yeah, I love our schedule this year. We have a more challenging non-conference. We did that on purpose. I mean, part of it was that we were able to get better games now with where we are in the net rankings, and the net rankings change. So but a lot of teams are doing their schedule off where you kind of finished last year, and if you have similar talent, if they think you're going to finish in a similar spot. So we did finish 68th, I believe, in a final net ranking, which would make us a quad 2 road game, and a quad 2 neutral game, which is a big factor for people. And then, obviously our administration supports us to where we can buy some games. And we were able to buy some quality opponents. And then we were able to start 2 home and homes with A10 schools. It's public knowledge. I don't mind mentioning that, like with St. Louis and George Mason. So for premier programs like that in the mid-major landscape, one that's been to a Final Four and has had a bunch of pros and all that, and was a very good team last year. And then another one that was in the top 25 all year last year and made it to the second round of the tournament as well before falling to a 1 seed. To have home and homes now with those kind of programs is a great, it's a respect for our program, and we're really grateful for those programs for playing them.
Awesome. So yeah, we'll begin trying to catch up with some of the new faces, the new players, maybe even some of the other coaches that are here on the staff. We'll let you get a bit of a break from having to deal with me in the stretch, but then we'll try to catch back up with you as we get into the fall semester, and looking forward to seeing how the guys continue to work together and work they put forward to grow with you.
Awesome. Sounds great.